Coming to paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Cancel Vacation. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a social justice social media mob looking to cancel her in this all-new E-Steam series adventure. Pre-order E-Steam Cancel Vacation on Amazon.com today. About 2 weeks ago, I got a chance to take a look at Icon and Rocket Season 1, Number 3. And I didn't have time to film a review because I had multiple projects I was working on, such as editing an author's upcoming book, and I was working on my own SJS Direct 2021 fall titles like E-Steam Cancel Vacation and Stop Simpin' in Cyberspace. And I was also working with the artist on the art for the upcoming comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, and we are getting close to having 50% of the art completed. So that's why I wasn't able to go out here and get an Icon and Rocket review up on the week of its release, but having some time to digest the information in this comic was actually good because I did a lot of face palming on this comic. Now, in the second issue, Icon and Rocket went from a superhero comic to Reginald Hudlin's wish fulfillment. And as the book went from being a superhero comic to wish fulfillment, that is when the book went right off the rails in that second issue. And now this third issue shows how much of a train wreck this comic has become. Now, in that second issue, your Icon went from becoming a story of a brother from another planet to becoming glorified fan fiction, because in that story, Augustus Freeman goes out here and murders Jefferson Davis, the head of the Confederacy. And with that revelation that was supposed to be so shocking, we see that your Reginald Hudlin is not really having any regard for Black history or American history, and that has completely derailed this series overall. Now, this third issue continues to be more wish fulfillment with no regard for any past American history or any past continuity of the Icon character. No, it's all about pushing Reginald Hudlin's wish fulfillment and pushing the social justice and identity politics at the expense of the Icon character. Now, in this third issue, we get the Icon and Rocket character not going out here to go out here and fight the bad guys. They're going out here to declare war. And they're declaring war on drugs on a grand global scale. And in this issue, on the first page, we have the poppy fields of Afghanistan, where all of the poppies are made in order to create the heroin that is sold in places like the inner city. And your Rocket is coming out into the field, telling everybody to clock out because they're getting off early, and Icon and Rocket are going to destroy all of the poppy fields in Afghanistan to combat drugs all across the globe. And that's where the story gets absolutely, again, ridiculous, because this is not a story where we're seeing any sort of nuance. It just shows you a zero-sum solution presented from a, again, extreme far-left perspective, talking about we're going to destroy all of the drugs. And this, again, doesn't really fit within the context of history, because the critical question everybody would ask is, if your Augustus Freeman was a centuries-old alien, then why didn't he get involved and deal with the war on drugs when Richard Nixon declared it on Black Americans in the early 70s? That's where this story falls completely apart, just like the second issue with the murder of Jefferson Davis, because it just does not fit within the lines of history. And as the story goes on, it says that that your Icon destroyed all the poppy fields from Kabul to Herat, and this has an impact on the economies of the black markets of Colombia, organized crime in New York City, the Yakuza in Tokyo, and it rails over to the ultimate evil as related to Reginald Hudlin's perspective, the White House in Washington, D.C. And the president is so freaked out about the destruction of those poppy fields that it's an economic disaster as related to everything, because they went out here and were not declaring war on drugs, they were actually declaring war on black people. And that's where your story here, it talks about how it's all about, the drugs were about the economy, and that's where everything falls apart for your Reginald Hudlin, who shows he did not do his research, because it wasn't the drugs that they were using to make money. No, the drugs were used to destroy the black community, and they were used to declare war on black people to either get them addicted to the drugs or to get them arrested and locked up so that they would not be competing with your white Americans in the economy. So we have this whole story where Icon destroys the drugs, and this segues into them going out here and talking about how they want to declare war on your Icon. And when they go out here and declare war, what they do is they go and get the evil white man, Mr. Lord, and talking about how they've got their own alien, and how this alien was basically trying to take a jab at Superman in 1939 Kansas or something like that. And they talk about how this shapeshifter killed the Superman type character, and the whole thing is they are talking about they want to bring in Mr. Lord and this shape-shifting alien. Meanwhile, Icon goes over, after destroying the poppy fields in Afghanistan, over to a meth lab where he goes out here and blows up a hillbillies meth lab, because, you know, your hillbillies, they are the ones who make the crystal meth, and they want to blow up their crystal meth lab, all part of their war on drugs. And again, this war on drugs, it would be a nice story if it was done right, but this story has absolutely no nuance, absolutely no subtlety, and basically does not factor in numerous factors. It's just the evil whites and the evil non-blacks, but it never talks about those in the black community who are out here supporting the drug dealers. It doesn't talk about people like your black pastors. It doesn't talk about people like many of those guys who smoke weed every day. I mean, you're going to just go out here and just make a story about drugs. And again, it's wish fulfillment to talk about, oh, I'm going to take out the drug lords, but you don't put any nuance to the story to show us that the reason why there is such a demand for drugs, and the reasons behind all of it are not as simple as presented here. Now, as the story goes on and we start to move things forward, we get some blowback as related to Raquel going out here and being Rocket, and we've got the evil white man going after Raquel, and then we've got the female who was in the first issue showing that she's a little bit more than human. And as she's showing that she's more than human, Rocket realizes that these white folks, the evil white man, is sending people after his mother. So they send the shape-shifting alien, who's the evil white man, after the mother. And as this is going along, we then get one of these Amazons, the police officer revealed to be an Amazon with her sword, and she doesn't stand much of a chance. And this whole story, again, it just falls completely apart. And this is where the Icon book goes from being just bad to absolutely terrible, because instead of giving us, again, action and adventure, Reginald Hudlin wants to give us wish fulfillment, and he wants to push his own identity politics at the expense of the characters. And this, again, this third issue is where your Icon and Rocket practically crash and burn, and the book starts to become as much of a train wreck as classic social justice titles from the what people call the SJW Marvel era, like Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, your Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, and many other terrible books like those on the Vertigo imprint like Border Town and many others. This is where Milestone 2.0 crashes and burns because Reginald Hudlin is too in his feelings to really understand the nuances of comic storytelling and understand that character development takes time, and these kinds of black and white solutions really don't work in a context of things like the drug war and enough of the evil white man, because there's more to many of these social and political issues than just evil white people. No, there's a whole host of not only evil white people doing evil, but there's a whole host of black people who are just as complicit with these white supremacists, and he's just glossing over many of those people in the black community in his really one-dimensional storytelling, and he's not really giving you all of the nuances that go on as related to why this whole black community is having numerous issues. And he won't ever talk about that black feminist movement, that another black women who sided with the feminist movement and created many single mothers like Raquel. He won't talk about any of those other things, but Mark and Dwayne did, and that's why Mark and Dwayne's Icon is way better than Icon and Rocket, and this Icon and Rocket series has practically crashed and burned in 3 issues. And on the looks of this whole Milestone relaunch, Milestone Returns is turning out to be just as bad as the 2018 Vertigo relaunch, and that's all because the creators are in their feelings about promoting their own personal agendas instead of objectively telling stories that remain true to the characters and presenting us with nuanced characters that have some depth and layers and show us some substance instead of trying to show us flash. And this is where, again, this whole Milestone relaunch falls completely apart, because it just is trying way too hard, because a writer does not need to try so hard in order to tell a story. Either they just go out here and tell the story that they want to tell, but what they want to do with this one is just try to again shout at the reader. So I look at that, and that's not what good writing is all about. Good writers don't have to shout at you. They just talk, they just let the characters do their thing, and they let the story roll on its own. But Reginald Hudlin keeps getting in the way of his characters to push his agenda, and by pushing his agenda, he's pushing readers away from some of the best black characters ever created and tarnishing the legacy of the late great Dwayne McDuffie's characters. And when I look at this Icon and Rocket number 3, I truly wish I could get assigned this project, put my fingers to the keyboard, and really present something that puts a little bit more subtleties to the politics, something similar to ISIS Imitation of Life or one of the ISIS series books, because the way Reginald Hudlin is doing these characters is not doing them justice, and it's not really showing how rich and complex the Icon character is, and it's not really showing us how great a character he is, because there's just a lot more that meet him than the eye, and you can't see it from this absolutely horrifically bad series. Now, my upcoming comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, will be coming to Kickstarter soon, and we're at nearly the halfway mark with half of the art completed, and I'm hoping that you guys will go out here and support John Haynes at Death's Door when it's released. And we also have the John Haynes series, which is available right now on Amazon.com, and you can pick up the books of the John Haynes series: The Temptation of John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World, John Haynes, A Conversation with Death, John Haynes, Dark Succubus, John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, and the latest book, John Haynes, taking care of business. You can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwares, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me do more comic review videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your